Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome. My name is Talia Mumtaz Yusuf, and I'm the Senior Manager Operations and Corporate Affairs from ICE Pakistan. Let me give you a very brief intro about what ICE Pakistan offers. ICE Pakistan is a transnational education provider. We basically offer transnational undergraduate recognized degrees and qualifications for the youth in Pakistan who want to get a foreign degree and are also able to get into the mobility program and get access to globally recognized education. Welcome to our online workshop on how to ace your A levels. This session is specially designed for all students striving to excel in the Cambridge International A level exams. And we know that these qualifications are highly respected across the globe, but at the same time, they're also very challenging. So, whether you're tackling maths, physics, chemistry, biology, business, economics, history, or geography, this workshop is going to be very beneficial and it will provide you with practical strategies to study smart, stay motivated, and look after your well being throughout your A level journey. And as a student myself in the past, who was preparing for A levels, I know this entire process gets very difficult for students. So it's very important for us to make sure that we are able to our things accordingly. So the session will obviously we'll dive into common challenges faced by the students, especially in Pakistan, including family and societal pressure, balancing studies during Ramadan and the hot summer months, dealing with internet issues or other unpredictable things that might happen, and that would eventually lead to a burnout. So these obstacles are definitely very real, but with the right tools and mindset, they're absolutely manageable. And without any further ado, I would like to introduce the speaker who will be leading today's session for us. We have Mr. Adnan, who has registered for this session, and he's going to be guiding you through on how you would prepare yourself for these exams. Mr. Adnan Khan is a qualified teacher and a private tutor with over 24 years of experience in mainstream education, recognizing the growing need for supplementary academic support. And that's how he founded Adnan Khan Tutoring to help students choose learning gaps and reach higher academic standards. His approach combines structured lesson planning with consistent practice, which has led to excellent success rate among his students. Alongside Mr. Adnan, we also have Yasmin, a senior teacher and lead teacher trainer at the Adnan Khan Tutoring, and she has been with the organization for over 6 years now. She's also able to bring her deep expertise and passion for education, and being in the field of academia, she has played a very important role in training other tutors and developing high quality teaching strategies to support the students in their academic journeys. So, together we'll be sharing insights, strategies, and encouragements to help you not just survive but thrive through your A levels. So, please get ready and start taking notes and try to make the most out of this session. Over to you, Mr. Adnan.
Thank you so much, Salia. I'm very proud and honored to be here today.
Thanks so much.
Very much appreciated. I do have to apologize for one thing, though, before we get started. My colleague Yasmin, unfortunately, developed symptoms of shingles last night. So she is off sick, unfortunately, at the moment. And I told her to just rest at home. So I hope you don't mind. It's just going to be you and myself taking this presentation.
That's fine. We can hear.
I'm just going to share my screen with you and just let me know if you can see the information that I have here. Can you see my presentation okay? Did you say it's visible, Salia?
It's not visible, so I think now it is, yeah.
It's visible. Okay, so everything is working okay from your side?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, perfect. I just lost you there, lost connection there for a second. So welcome everybody. Whether you're watching live or you're catching the recording later on, This session is pretty much for you. If you're in, I think it's in the UK, we say grade 13, year 13 students in Pakistan, facing the A-level exams coming up very shortly. I'm here to help you prepare better, to stay calm, and walk into those exams with real confidence like you've never done before. So Saliha introduced me before, and I really appreciate that. But I'll give you some more examples of what I've been doing in this particular educational community for the past few years. So my organizations are twofold. We have Adnan Khan Tutoring. We also have 11 Plus Tutoring. And we've been running these companies now for just over 24 years in the UK, in the London area. So we pretty much prepare students for exams. And we're specialists in preparing students in exams. So we understand the amount of preparation and the hard work that you're doing right now to take forward these exams in the next few weeks as well. I'm also a senior lecturer at Bucks New University. I'm also a teacher trainer by profession as well. So we train teachers in order to become good teachers at school or through private tutoring as well. So this particular presentation is all about acing your A-levels, how to prepare, perform, and pretty much power through and thrive in your exams. Because if I come from my perspective, I can honestly tell you now that if I look back at my educational career and history, A-levels were the most intense exams that I had ever done. And this is going through multiple degrees and graduating multiple degrees thereafter. When I look back now, I probably worked the hardest that I ever did in my A-levels. And A-level exams are very, very intense. And sometimes, especially in the UK, there seems to be a bit of a two-tier system. So you either have A-level exams or you have what we call more vocational qualifications that are coming through now, which is a more modern thing now in the UK. But A-levels still command their respect, and nobody can take it away from you. Because A-levels, if you do well in your A-levels, then that's going to open up so many pathways for you and so many more career opportunities, which we're going to discuss a little bit later on as well. So in terms of A-levels themselves, what is it that you're doing at the moment? Many of you, like Salih has said, are probably doing maths, physics, chemistry, biology. Some of you are probably doing languages, business economics, computer science, and maybe a few other subjects as well. So even though the exams and the syllabus is pretty much orientated for the British curriculum and the Cambridge curriculum itself, we know that there's a lot to it, because this particular footing, this sound basis that you're hopefully going to develop will then take you, hopefully, to the next stage of your life, which is your university life thereafter. And what does this mean, and how do you actually get motivated to prepare for A-level exams? When there are so many distractions in the world, like social media, like TV, like YouTube, for example. And how do you get through this? How do you get through all that noise that's so loud around you? How do you stay motivated? And how do you take your body, your mindset along with you as well? We'll have a look at that today. So we know that, either you're doing Edexcel or Cambridge A-levels, and they're highly globally respected qualifications. A-levels are tough, but you've already come so far. And whether you're doing any of the subjects, chemistry, economics, history, or maths, you have what it takes. If you hadn't had what it takes, you wouldn't be here in this position right now. Okay? So these exams open doors to university and other future careers as well. And preparation is absolutely key. Not just hard work, but the right work and the right structure is absolutely key. So we know the pressure is real, whether it's late night studying in Ramadan, and we know that Ramadan is over, but I had lots and lots of students who are struggling during the month of Ramadan. And for those of you who are not in the second year, the A2 year, who are in AS level, this is something that you can probably plan for later on as well. Because in the hot summer months, especially in Pakistan, it's getting quite warm now. It's difficult. It's difficult to concentrate, especially when you probably have internet or electricity issues as well at the same time, and you're lacking motivation sometimes. There's a burnout that's taking place, and there's a lot of stress and pressure, especially from friends, family, and peer members. How do you get through this? Because there's always a structure. There's always a structure where you can actually write down or you can learn and make your life easy. So there's always a plan in place. So in life, whatever you do, before you do it, you have to plan it. You have to structure something. How do you get through these warm months? How do you get through the summer heat? How do you get through the burnout, the sweatiness, the internet, electricity issues? How do we create space for ourselves? How do we protect ourselves from all this particular noise? Well, let's see what we can do, because challenges for students in Pakistan are immense. And I understand that because I've been to Pakistan a number of times. And we have contacts with students in Pakistan as well that constantly are talking about the same issues. But there's a way out. So there's always a way out. And you've got to make a plan, at least a revision timetable for 6 to 8 weeks before your exams. Now, I know that some of you have already started planning for these exams, especially in the new year, which is fantastic. And some of you have planned things but don't have a complete structure, maybe. Or some of you probably haven't started your revision yet, and you're leaving it to the last minute. And we understand that as well, because we've been students, we know what it takes. So create a realistic timetable, at least 6 to 8 weeks long. Divide each subject into various topics within each subject and cover them on a weekly basis and on a daily basis as well. Mixed content revision with past paper practice is absolutely ideal. And use early mornings for high focus study. And that's what a lot of our students were doing, especially during the month of Ramadan. And it was a good excuse to wake up early, to actually start afresh when probably the rest of the family members may be asleep. And when the house is quiet and there's less noise from outside in terms of traffic. And you can do that now. You can still do that now if you want to, right? So many students, what they do is they have late nights because they're studying in peace and quiet and tranquility. And there are others that wake up really early in the morning and get an early night. So it depends what kind of person you are. But the scientific research has given us some information based on this. There was a scientific research that took place about 7 years ago. And a research took place on 500 students in the UK. Of those 500 students, 250 were asked to do late night revision, and the other 250 were asked to do early morning revision. When I mean by early morning, I mean waking up around about 5:30 in the morning and getting started by 6 a.m. and doing at least about an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of revision in the morning. Results showed us that the most successful students were those students who actually went to bed early at night and woke up early in the morning and were fresh and focused on their revision because they were able to take in more information, as opposed to late at night when you're feeling tired, when you're exhausted from the long day that you've already had, and then revising and then probably falling asleep while you're revising at the same time. So you know better what kind of a person you are. But if you want to trial something like this, then I would recommend that you trial this now and see how you get on. Either you're an early person or you're a late night person, but whatever works for you, go ahead. But that revision timetable is something that you have to write it down, because the most successful people in the world, and if you look at most of these entrepreneurs that we have, and especially business people or working for big corporate companies, CEOs and directors, one couple of things that they have in common is, first of all, they wake up really early in the morning. So their day starts very early in the morning, and they do a lot of their difficult work first thing in the morning while they're fresh and while they're focused. And the second thing is they write things down. Because if you write things down and you make notes and you have a plan, you can refocus on that plan and remind yourself of that plan on a daily basis. And that makes more sense. So as a typical young person, when I was young, I had a tendency of not writing things down. So I think to myself that I've got a super brain. I can remember everything and anything, but that wasn't the case, right? None of us have super brains. even though we might be really intelligent. But the best thing to do is create a revision timetable, Monday to Sunday. If you want to have a day off in the week, then take that day off, because that's to recharge your batteries and to start afresh the next day. But make that timetable and stick it on your bedroom wall, or stick it on the fridge, or stick it somewhere where you're constantly looking at that timetable and you can't get away from that timetable. Just to remind yourself of the fact that the next few weeks are probably the most important weeks of your entire life. And follow that structure and follow that timetable. It might be the case that you might be running a little bit behind schedule on that timetable, and that's understandable. It doesn't matter if you fall behind a few minutes here and there, but at least you've got something to refocus on when you go back to that timetable in terms of that particular preparation. I'm just going to bring in Salih very quickly. Salih, do you remember the times when you were revising for your exams? Did you have a particular plan at that time, or was there a structure that you had that you followed?
So that was pretty much long ago. I think that was back in 2009 and 10 when I finished my A levels. And at that time, I remember, due to lack of other resources and facilities by schools and our counselors, it was a bit challenging for us to cope up with all the stress that usually students go through. And we had little to nobody to guide us through that stressful phase. So for us, it was more about us going with the flow. So whatever suits, whatever time that is convenient, or whatever time you get. Because obviously, as a student in Pakistan who's struggling in that phase of making sure that you're acing your A levels, we were also doing school and we were doing part-time tutoring as well. So we used to get very little bracket when it comes to time when we had to prepare ourselves, what we usually call independent studying sessions. So this is where we were kind of lacking, because we were giving too much time in school, and then tutors, private tutors that we would hire. So for myself, I remember I would usually study at night. That was one thing that, I mean, that's how everybody else's body clock works differently. But for me, I think the nighttime was the time where I could really concentrate and focus and do my revisions. But if you ask for a plan, I think at that time I wasn't so aligned with my goals when it comes to my academic planning for my exams, especially. But I remember when I went to university, that's when I was guided by a lot of great mentors and tutors who would tell me how to plan my schedule when it comes to revising for my exams or even for my assignments. So yeah, that was something that I was able to streamline a lot later after my A levels. So now I feel like it's more convenient and useful for students, because now we do have counselors, we do have people at university and in schools who are able to guide students on how they would make effective use of session and timetables, and how would they effectively set up their goals when it comes to revision and learning. Because again, I think this is where you really prep yourself for, like in A levels, for your undergraduate degree programs, whether you're a student who is planning to stay in Pakistan or if you're planning to go abroad. So my advice would be to plan things accordingly. Let's say if you have different various subjects, so you plan accordingly on what days you want to do which subjects, and then make sure that you're able to do those tasks subject wise, and then do revisions accordingly.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's really good feedback, Saliha. And there's something you
Thank you.
said which actually rekindled some memories in my own mind of when I was young. Because my parents, you see, they came to the UK in the early 1970s. In the early 1970s, and when I was growing up here, my parents were not. They didn't have much of an education, and they really wanted to plow in every single resource possible in my education and my siblings as well. So my parents couldn't sit down with me and explain to me what I had to revise, what I had to do, what revision was, how to prepare for exams. Because, in the UK, the system is very different. You work long, long hours and you pay high amounts of taxes and you got to work. So a typical husband and wife both have to work just to make ends meet. So I saw very little of my parents, especially coming back from school sometimes. And, motivating yourself sometimes is the hardest thing that you can do, you know, especially sometimes when you don't have those experienced, trained mentors who can actually help you as well. So that was something that definitely was missing when I was growing up. And the fact that you have those systems now in your educational establishments, Saliha, it just makes me so happy that the students now have that visibility, have that structure, and they have that help on the side as well. So at that time, when I was in school, education was very different in the UK, and some of you might be surprised by this, considering that British education is probably the one of the best in the world. But it was surprising because in those days we never had inspections from the government in schools. We didn't have Ofsted inspections. So right now in schools, every school is inspected, and the Ofsted inspectors could turn up at any moment in your school with a night's notice. So the schools have to be on guard about how they're doing, how they're performing, how they're teaching their students, and quality is absolutely key. We never had that quality. In fact, when I was growing up, there was no such thing as private tuition in the UK. Can you believe it, Saliha, that 24 years ago, when we opened up our first center in our locality, people in this country didn't actually know what private tutoring was. So it wasn't like Pakistan 24 years ago. And we had to educate people about private tuition and private tutoring and the fact that, you should invest some money in your own children's education for the future. It was very new. So I didn't have private tutoring. There was no private tuition. There were no revision guides or revision books that you get now where you can just buy a book and you can revise it and turn up to the exam. We were solely just reliant on our school's exercise books, right? So sometimes the teachers would turn up. Sometimes the teachers would not turn up to school. Sometimes we had supply teachers or contractual teachers. So the structure was all over the place. So can you imagine revising those exercise books that were not fully focused on the revision angle? It was tough. It was really tough. So we had to do things ourselves. But now, alhamdulillah, the good news is that we have lots and lots of support available. And we should take that support with both hands and trying to make as much as we possibly can and do our best as well. So what are the smart study techniques that we have? Well, we have a system called Pomodoro. It's a Pomodoro method. It's very unique and it's very popular. And it's very popular in the UK now as well. And this is something that we recommend students of how to study, right? Because it's easy to say that you should revise and you should do this, but how do you do it? So the Pomodoro method teaches us something unique. Unique in the sense that you have 25 minutes focused study, and then after 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute rest, take a 5-minute break. And again, you start again 25 minutes, right? Pure focus study, and then you take a 5-minute rest. When you've done those Pomodoro method 4 times, then you should take a half an hour break at least. The reason for the Pomodoro method is the fact that it keeps you fresh, keeps you focused, and at the same time, those small breaks after 25 minutes really refreshes you. Because sometimes you need a bit of glass of water, maybe, or a cup of tea, maybe, just to keep you refocused. And just close your eyes for 5 minutes, because it could be quite draining and quite cumbersome, constantly reading books without actually giving your eyes a bit of a rest. And the second technique is using flashcards. So a lot of students do this now. They purchase flashcards from the bookshops or through Amazon, and they write notes on the flashcards. And they use those flashcards for key revision techniques. But not everybody likes handling manual flashcards. So there's a website called Anki, Anki, and they specialize in online flashcards. And the website is completely free, by the way. So if you feel like that you want to make revision notes on physical flashcards or Anki flashcards, then do that as well. Because that will keep everything structured and you will not lose your notes. And you know exactly where you're going to start, what the middle is, and what the finish part of your revision actually is in terms of your revision notes as well. Because I understand that, having lots and lots of paper around, lots and lots of documents could sometimes get quite confusing and difficult as well. Mind maps help summarize large topics visually. So there are different types of learners, right? So there are visual learners, and visual learners are those people who like diagrams, who like pictures. When they visualize something, maybe watch YouTube videos on revision, they pick things up much quicker. And there's a second type of learner who is the auditory learner. Auditory learner means that they like listening to podcasts, or listen to the radio maybe, or like listening to revision materials, or they like listening to songs, for example, so they can actually take account of this as well. So auditory means that you can listen to YouTube videos instead on some really important topics and just get the summaries in to understand what they mean. And then you can teach someone else to check if you understand the concept fully as well. So Saliha, what a lot of students do now is, once they've got their revision in order and they want to test that revision out, sometimes it's really motivating just getting a sibling or getting a parent and saying to them, look, here's my revision notes, you hold them, and now I'm going to teach you about everything I know about this topic, right? So the person holding the revision notes can check whether you're following the right structure, whether you're following the right notes, whether you're really coming up with that sound knowledge that you've actually written down in your revision notes as well. And that's also very motivating. And then the third type of learner, the first one is visual, the second one is auditory, the third type of learner is kinesthetic learner. So what does a kinesthetic learner do? Kinesthetic learner likes doing things with their hands, right? So they learn by doing things. So these are people who are very practically orientated. Now you might ask yourself that A-levels is not really a practical subject in that sense. Yeah, it's true. It isn't, because there's a lot of study mechanism that comes into A-level subjects. But you know what? When you're keeping yourself busy, when you're actually doing things, when you're teaching someone else to check if you understand the concept fully, that is a form of kinesthetic learning as well. So if you're not quite sure where you are, whether you're a visual learner, whether you're an auditory learner, whether you're a kinesthetic learner, you could be a combination of all three, or maybe you could be a combination of all two. Now's the time to test yourself. Why not? When else are you going to test yourself? Now's the right time. If you're doing pilot testing on yourself, right, you still have time to do this now. And then decide what's best for you in terms of revision. So active recall beats passive reading every single time. So we think to ourselves that rote learning, or just reading and reading and reading and reading, will get us places. Yes, it can do. Of course it can do. But every single person is a different learner. Do we take that into account when we take students on, when we prepare them for their A-level exams? Sometimes, sometimes not. But it has to come from us. We need to understand what kind of a learner we are. Because once we have determined what kind of a learner we are and how we learn best, then we put that into action. So it's more our responsibility than the responsibility of the teacher or the tutor or the lecturer, or what kind of learner we are. So once you understand that, let's go ahead. One of our students called Ariba, she improved her grades by ditching passive reading and just doing 3 Pomodoro methods per subject every single day. And what she said was, at the time, that before, I was just reading and reading and reading, and sometimes I would lose focus, and sometimes I would think about what I'm going to have for dinner tonight, or sometimes I would lose focus and think about my friends and what we did yesterday, or sometimes I lose focus and I just start daydreaming. And it happens because we're human beings, right? We only have so much attention span. We can only take in so much information. We're only human beings. So she said that Pomodoro method really helped her out to take in bite-sized chunks of information and then prepare for her exam. So try something new. Be a little bit adventurous, because now is the time. Try using the Pomodoro method. Try using some flashcards. Maybe create a visual mind map and stick it on your wall, right? And the mind map could have different bubbles of different topics and bullet points, for example. Okay? And try and teach someone else in your house. Tell them to turn the TV off and get somebody's attention. Maybe go to your friend's house and try and teach a friend, and then you can swap roles. Maybe that might possibly work as well. Okay, so try that as well. So Saleh, I want to move on to practicing past papers. What's the situation at the moment? Could you give me some information that current students, are they practicing past papers? Do they do that much in school? Do they do that in their home time or at the college itself?
So I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, Mr. Adnan, but I've been a lecturer for the last 7, 8 years, but only at higher education level, so mostly university students. But I have briefly taught a few OA level students as well. My practice would be that I would make sure that I'm able to deliver the content subject wise, week wise, and then once I'm done with the topic, I would ask them to complete a few questions. That could include a very structured way of writing and helping them with the essays that they were writing, or even with the case studies as well. So I would make sure that we are able to cover as many questions relevant to that topic. And we would also look back at the past papers and see how relevant that question was and how repetitive it was. And obviously, that would help us plan the main topics for that subject area. And that would really ease a lot of stress from the students as well. So once they're able to complete one topic, that's when we move on to the other one. And then I would go over with them and see if they have fully understood the question and if they are doing ample work with their answers as well, and if they got them right. And that would really help them understand. Sometimes, even reading or delivering the content would not make them understand the topic in such depth. But then when they go over the past papers and then when they're reading through the content, that's when everything starts making sense, especially
Yeah.
when you are able to practice critical thinking and analysis into your writing. And then you can link that up with relevant case studies as well. And when you give them examples of what exactly happens in different industries and how would they go about with that question. So I think the practicing part is really important. You can't expect the students to just, study all the theoretical aspects of that subject area and then just go in the exam and memorize everything and write that down. So practicing the past papers is I think is very crucial for the students and for the success when it comes to the A levels exam or even for the undergraduate degrees as well. So
Well said, Saleh. Well said. Look, past papers are your best friend in a way, but at the same time, we don't want to use and abuse our best friends too much, because it's like Saleh has said, it's part and parcel of making sure that you know the theory elements of your subject, and then you apply those theory elements to the past papers as well. Why are past papers so important in essence for revision? And the reason is because it gives us an idea of the type of questions that we could possibly expect in our exams. Gives us an idea of the marking schemes and how they work and how much we have to write. It also gives us the idea, and I keep on using that word structure, and I'm going to keep on saying this word because that's the most important thing. Because when the examiner is marking the exams, the examiner has a structure. And the examiner has to mark the exam papers based on that structure. So you could write 10 pages on one particular question. You may not pass that question if you don't follow that structure.
definitely.
All right. So writing as much as possible is not the answer to anything. It's about following that structure. Where is that structure? It's in the mark scheme of the exam papers as well. So what are we revising? What we're revising right now at home, is that going to come up in the exam? Well, one way to find out is look at past papers. Number two, how much do I need to accumulate marks? What content do I need to put down? Number two, how much do I need to write to accumulate the marks in the exam paper? So that's why past papers are very handy. And thirdly, a lot of the times, and not always, and it depends on the subject that you're studying, but a lot of the times you can predict what type of questions will turn up in the real exam this summer based on past papers. There's no guarantee, but there's a good focus and element on they could turn up. Now, what examiners try to do is they change the wordings around They change the question around, but really, in essence, they're asking the same question. So you need to read behind those words and behind the lines. So apart from your normal subject revision and topic revision, I would recommend that you use past papers, but don't abuse them too much. Because if you spend too much time doing past papers, that means you probably don't have enough time on the subject revision. So I would recommend at least 2 full papers per subject each week. Now, for some, that might not be enough, some that might be too much. So you can just find what is ideal for you, all right, and where you are on your revision journey. And based on that journey, then you can plan that as you go along. Now, also look out for examiners' comments and trends, because sometimes when you download past papers from the websites or from your schools and colleges, examiners' comments are really vital. You also get mock student responses. So sometimes they will provide you with a student response who probably got an A grade. Then they'll provide you with another sample from a student who got maybe a C grade, and another sample where you got an E grade. And when you compare those 3 different grades of work, then it starts slowly making sense. Okay, this is how much I need, or these are the angles that I need to take to get an A grade maybe. So that gives you a lot of background as well, a lot of background information. And most importantly, exam conditions. Some students struggle with timing. And it's important that if you do some of these past papers, you actually time yourself as well and do it under proper exam conditions, especially towards the latter parts of your journey, just before your A2 exams take place. Because then you can work out, what is your timing like? You know, are you finishing the paper too early? And you have time to go back and check your answers? Or are you taking too long to answer each question and the overall paper as well? So overall, you know, take past papers as your good friends as well. So one of our students called Kelly, I remember last year, she was doing her A-level exams, and she said that she was doing a chemistry exam paper, and she said that it made her life so much easier once she understood what the chemistry exam paper was all about. So in schools, you'll probably do mock exam papers just before the real exams, but sometimes it's not done very intensively. So students will need to take ownership of practicing exam papers at home. So Kelly, because she was doing a chemistry A-level exam and she wanted to go on and do medicine at university, chemistry was one of her weaker subjects. And she said that once I started doing past papers, and for chemistry, she did at least 6 past papers, along with examiner comments, along with finding out exactly what she needed to do to get those A grades. She said that things polished off for her, because that's the element that she was missing more than anything else. So please do look at practice past papers on a weekly basis as well. Okay. If you get any, Saleh, if you get any questions coming in, we can take them at the end, or we can take them during
Yeah,
our session. It's no
we'll
problem at
do
all.
that in the
So,
end. We can.
yeah, sure. So feel free to interrupt me anytime you want.
All right, sure.
Subject-specific revision tips. Now, look, some of you might be doing different subjects. If you're doing humanities, if you're doing social sciences, if you're doing languages, for example, geography, history, and so on as well, your tutors will tell you what kind of plan you need. So this is something that we follow quite vividly in the UK as well. So we follow point, evidence, explanation, and linkage, right? It's called PEAL, and it's very popular now. But maybe you're probably taught another abbreviation, but that could also be the right thing as well. So whatever you follow, whatever structure you're following in humanities and social science subjects or languages, please follow that. If you don't have any of that, then I would recommend that you look at how to actually structure your answers based on the Peel effect, because the Peel effect is within the structure of some of these exams, and you will get bonus marks if you follow this structure as well. And just very quickly, for students who don't understand this or haven't come across this abbreviation or concept before. So when you're writing long essay questions, let's say, for example, for geography or history, then you can't just dive in head first and write every single thing about that question. It has to have a structure. Just like, you read a good story, the story has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end. So if you're watching the news, for example, if you're watching the 3 p.m. news in Pakistan, the newscaster will start with the main headline news first, right? And that's like an introduction. And then that news presenter will go through each headline news in much more detail. And then towards the end of that news program, half an hour later or 20 minutes later, they'll recap what the main headlines of the news were, like a summary, like a conclusion. Okay? So in humanities and social science exams, we do exactly the same thing. But what's the formula to get maximum marks? The formula is PEEL. All right. It could also be PEE, and it all depends on the institute that you're studying and what they've actually taught you. So, first of all, make your point. What is the point of the question that you're trying to make? Secondly, provide evidence. Provide references, provide evidence of your learning behind that particular topic or subject, and then explain it deep down, and then link it to practical examples of case studies that you've learned before as well. All right. You stick with this particular abbreviation, this plan, it could work wonders for you. But before you do this, please make sure you confirm this with your tutors and your teachers as well. Learning formulae, practicing diagrams, all right, calculation steps, that's all really, really important, especially for science and math subjects. So you cannot just write down the full answer and expect to get full grades. There has to be a working out formula, working out method, and it has to be done step by step by step by step. Some students, what they tend to do is they work it out in their heads, but the problem is it remains in their heads. Now, how do you get it from your head, from your brain, to the exam paper? And that's what you have to remember. Okay, if you're using a calculator paper, if you're putting in sums in the calculator, the examiner who's going to be marking your work doesn't know what sums you put in the calculator. Only you know that. So what do you have to do? The sums that you put in your calculator or the manual working out that you're doing on the paper, you have to show it on the paper, and you cannot just remain in your head, because you get marks for that. All right, you get marks for working out. So it's so important that you make sure you show the examiner what your working out methods are, step by step. Show the formulae that you are starting off with and the formulas, and maybe create a rough diagram so the examiner can see the evidence that the student actually knows this particular topic area. If you're doing business and economics subjects, let's say, for example, focus on application and evaluation. Use real life examples. Look, there is so much going on in the world right now in terms of business and economics news, right? Every day we switch on our news channels. There's something new going on in the world. We just don't know where we're heading at the moment. Use real life examples of case studies. Talk about what's going on in the world right now in terms of business, whether it's at home in Pakistan or whether it's international examples, because that's what examiners like to see. They want to see that is a business or an economics student connected with the real world, or are they just reading 20-year-old books at home and trying to apply that knowledge? Okay, so come up with real life, mature and advanced knowledge as much as possible as well. So each subject demands something different. Don't use a one-size-fits-all method or formula. Practice subject-specific approaches. Now, you could be doing an economic subject. You could also be doing chemistry and biology, for example. So they're very different subjects in nature. You could be doing maths and maybe an English subject. Very, very different subjects, right? Very, very different formulas that you have to use in the exam, and different structure that you need as well. If you're not sure, okay, watch this video again, or go to your professional teacher and ask them for their formula if that hasn't been shared with you already, okay? And then staying organized, right? How do you stay organized? Okay, you made a plan. You've made a revision timetable. Fantastic, right? You spent all that time making a timetable. Now you're going to follow that timetable. You stuck that timetable on your bedroom wall next to your table and your chair where you're revising, or you could be revising in the living room, whatever, but you've got that copy of that timetable there. But how do you stay organized though? Well, you could use a Google Calendar, or maybe even a printed schedule if you want, right? Why is that important? Well, a lot of the times we can't remember when there's so much going on what we need to do. So sometimes we need to put in reminders. So if you've got a mobile phone, stick in a reminder in your mobile phone. If I'm going to be studying at 6 p.m. in the evening, stick a reminder in your mobile phone, stick on an alert or an alarm that can focus your attention back to what you're supposed to be doing. Because we get sidetracked very, very easily. So we need to stay focused as well. Okay, so maybe an alarm on your mobile phone, a reminder on your mobile phone, or if you use Google Calendar, or maybe if you use Google iPhone or sorry, Google, not Google iPhone, Google Chrome or iPhone, Apple iPhone. You can go into the calendar, you can put in a reminder for yourself and put an alert or an alarm that will then go off just before your schedule for revision as well. Organize your notes by subject and topic. So if you have lots and lots of paper that you're revising, organize them. Number each page. So page one is going to be number one, page two, number two, page three, number three. So if you get lost within the pile of paper and the revision notes, you actually know where you started from and what order you're going on, right? Because sometimes if you're using these A4 pads, the paper might come loose. If you're using an exercise book, then it's okay because everything will be in order anyway. So I recommend you get some of those exercise books that the paper will not come loose from them. But if you've got lots and lots of paper scattered everywhere, please number the pages so you know where you started and what order of revision that you're actually doing as well. Keep all your past papers and marked answers in one place. So don't get them scattered, keep them all together because then those past papers will be your revision tool, which you're also going to be using to go back to as well. Okay. I remember there was a student called Rebecca that we had, and Rebecca was complaining about the fact that, she had so many revision notes, and sometimes she would get lost in those revision notes, or the revision notes would get lost. So I remember one of my colleagues last summer, she recommended her to open up a Google Drive account, and in Google Drive, she downloaded Google Documents. And in Google Documents, she actually typed out all her revision notes. And they were all in order. So it wasn't the case that she was using so much paper. Everything was in order. She would go into Google Drive, open up her Google Documents. She had a folder for each subject. Everything was fully organized, right? Google Drive, open up an account if you don't have one. It's absolutely free. Okay. Initially, I think they give you 1 GB for free, and then after you have to pay. But 1 GB is going to be more than enough for any student who is going to be working on revising for the A-level exams. Or you can just save it on a USB drive and then use that in your computer as well. So some people like that visual approach of revising from a computer. Some other students like the fact that they've got notes on their piece of paper or their pad or books, wherever they're using. So you decide what's best for you. Now, we're so lucky now that we have all these resources. We've got so many resources available online. We've also got YouTube videos. So if you're coming across a concept in your textbook or your exercise book and you don't understand it, go to YouTube, type in the essential wordings, keywords for that particular topic in your subject area. And I'm sure there are going to be so many people out there who will give you a really good understanding and explain to you what that topic or that formula actually means and use them and then write them down as well. So then you can come back to them again and again and remind yourself of those topics. And that's the beautiful thing about revision now and preparing for your exams now than when we were actually in school in those days. So you've got all this visual information that you can call upon anytime you want. Because in a school or college environment, you have that class once. Once that class is finished, it may not come back again, right? So how do you remind yourself of that particular concept? Go online, use all that technology, okay? Make that technology actually work for you. So if a textbook explanation is not doing it for you, ask your tutors. Go into YouTube. Maybe ask your tutors to make a video for you for that matter, right? And then you can utilize that information later on in terms of revision as well. So what about exam day game plan? What is the game plan itself? Well, the exam hall can shake even the most prepared student. Have a checklist that you're following. Practice breathing calmly, slowly. Read the questions slowly. Don't rush, don't panic on the day of your exam because you need to trust your preparation. Okay, it's really essential that you trust your preparation. If you are really prepared, now the question is that I go into preparation now. How do you know that you are prepared? How do you actually know that you are fully prepared for your exam? The simple answer to that question is you don't know. You don't know until you go into the exam hall and you open up your exam paper. So it's human nature, by the way, to think like this. All right. So what's really going to test how prepared we are is going to be the exam paper. But before that, how do we know how prepared we are? We don't. And that means that you keep preparing up until your exams, because that's the best thing to do. But to be able to be prepared for revision and for your exams, you need to sleep properly at night. Okay, at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night will hopefully keep you energized and focused the next day. And on the day of the exam, I would recommend that you don't do last minute cramming and revision. I know some of you will still do it regardless of what I say, and that's fine. But on the night of the exam, go to sleep a little bit early. Maybe do some meditation, do some calming breathing exercises, so you're not panicked and you go to sleep the night before nice and relaxed. Okay, maybe even have a bath or something before you go to bed that night. And when you wake up in the morning, wake up a little bit early. Have a nice breakfast, a healthy breakfast, and take your time eating the breakfast, because there's nothing worse than being rushed off your feet and panicking first thing in the morning on the day of the exam because you're in a rush and you've woken up late. Get some energy inside you, right? Eat some good, healthy food that will give you that energy, that will release the energy slowly during the day of the exam. What's the best type of food that releases energy slowly throughout the day? Maybe dates, for example. Maybe some nuts, or have a nutty cereal or something. That will keep you energized and that will release the energy slowly throughout the day. Okay? Read every question twice before answering. You may have heard some of these things before, but it's important that I tell you as well, because that's true. Read every question twice, because there was a study done about 10 years ago of students who read the question minimum 2 times and students who read the question just once. And we know what the results are of that study. So the students who read the question at least minimum 2 times before they rushed to answer the questions were more successful than the students who read the question once. Because, when we're moving the pages and we're trying to read the questions, maybe it doesn't sink in first time around, or maybe we've misread the question. And those elements, those keywords that we have in our exam papers, keywords like evaluate, like assess, like critically analyze, like explain, what do they mean? What do these words actually mean? And where'd you get that information from? You get it from your exam papers. So every time you're going through the exam paper, note down these keywords and write down the definition of what these keywords are. What are they asking me to do? Because everything is in those keywords. A lot of the times those keywords mean the same things because they have to change the question around. They have to change the context of the question, even though it's a similar question. But what do you have to do? Look at the mark scheme. So if you know that this question, let's say, for example, is a 15-mark question, and it's asking me to evaluate the question itself, especially if you're doing social science and humanities subjects, that means you can't just answer the question head first. That means you need that structure. You need to follow PEAL, right? Point, evidence, explanation, linkage. And at the same time, if the question is asking you to evaluate, that means that you look at critical analysis, you look at all different angles of that question, all right? You look at the pros and the cons of that question, and you follow an introduction, main body, and a conclusion at the end as well, all right? So note down the different types of keywords that you have in your exam papers, because those keywords will really highly benefit you if you know what they mean and what the examiner is asking you to do, okay? So don't rush. Use your full exam time wisely. So when you're actually doing past papers at home in terms of revision, time yourself. You should know how much time you're putting in for each question, right? So if it's a 15-mark question and you know that you have to utilize 20 minutes of your exam time on that 15-mark question, try and stick around the boundary of that timing, because timing is everything. And what you don't want to do is be kicking yourself at the end of the exam because you ran out of time. Because if you run out of time, you don't lose marks, you just don't gain them. All right? You just don't gain the marks. And that means that could affect your overall result at the end. So stick with the timing plan, stick with the structure, look at the keywords in the exam papers as well. And at the same time, prepare each question and work out in your minds and write this down beforehand how much time you're going to stick with each particular question. Now, there should be a clock in the exam hall. Obviously, if you're wearing a watch, analog watch, by the way, because you're not allowed to take in digital iPhone watches because it's not allowed in the exam. So if you've got an analog watch, in other words, with the hands, then that's safe, right? That's fine. So then you can time yourself as well, how much time you've actually got left for each particular question. So utilize that example as well. Pressure, staying focused under pressure. I myself, let me tell you what I do. So I do a lot of meditation, and I do it first thing in the morning, and I do it last thing at night before I go to bed. And it's something I've been doing for many years, to be honest with you. And deep breathing does control your nerves. It really does relax you quite a lot. At the same time, you start clearing, your mind is usually clogged up with so many things that have happened in the day. And it gives you an opportunity to just clear your mind a little bit. The strange thing is that I was reading a book recently, and in that book, there was one particular character. The book was based on this character, and that particular character was walking down the village one day, and he bumped into his friend, and the friend asked him, "Now, what are you going to be doing later on today?" And this particular character said that, "Well, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to take 2 hours out just to think." And that was normal in those days. In the olden days, it was normal to take time out to just think and just reflect on your life. What are you doing at the moment? What you're planning to do in the future? If you said that to somebody now, that I'm going to go home and I'm going to take a couple of hours to think, they'll probably laugh at you. Because we don't have enough time to think nowadays, because we have too many distractions going on in our lives. So take time out. Take time out to think, to reflect, to plan what you're going to be doing next. And just meditate and just calm your nerves, calm your body, calm your mental state. Okay? And see if it works. So, most important thing is have a positive mindset. Change your mindset from I can't to I will or I will try. All right? So remove those words from your vocabulary. I can't, or I cannot, or I will not. And start becoming a little bit more positive. I will, and if I can't, then I'll try. At least I'll try, right? And if you try, that's the best thing that you can do. Because if you don't try, you never get the benefits of anything in life. Whether it's studying, whether it's exams, whether it's your work life, whether it's your family life, you gotta at least try. Because if you don't try, you'll never know. And then visualize yourself staying calm and visualize yourself doing well. So when you come out of that exam and your friends are asking you, how did it go? How did the exam go? Rather than being negative and saying, it was tough, I didn't finish the exam paper, I could have done better, get rid of those negative thoughts. When you finish the exam, tell your colleagues I did well. I'm hopeful. I'm going to succeed, inshallah, in this, and start changing your mindset as you go along. Because positivity really flows. It really does flow. And when other people see that you've got a positive mind, realistic, but positive, okay? There's positive and fake. No, you're being realistic, but positive at the same time. And a calm mind performs better than a panicked one, okay? So it's okay to be nervous because, being nervous is natural, isn't it? It's like a natural human instinct. but nerves can be redirected. How do they get redirected? By just calming yourself and by taking deep breaths, by visualizing success and also meditating, you know, because you put in the work now. You need that energy flow in your body. And that's how it works. Avoid three big distractions. Number one, procrastination. What is procrastination? So, procrastination is delaying things again and again. Oh, I'll do it tonight. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Or I'll do it the day after. It's okay. And trying to build excuses to yourself to make yourself feel happy. We do that quite often, don't we? We make excuses for ourselves in our own minds that it's fine. I couldn't do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. And when tomorrow comes, you don't get time because you get busy with life. And, I can't do it today. I'll do it tomorrow again. That's what we call procrastination. And that needs to stop because delay kills momentum. How do you build momentum? How do you build momentum? You just get started. The quicker you start, the earlier you start, you get into the flow of things, you get into the momentum of things, you start enjoying it. Now you might be thinking, enjoying revision? Enjoying studying? Who enjoys revision? Who enjoys studying? But you know what? When you get into that momentum, when you get into the build of revising, you actually start enjoying it. The day you finish your last exam and you come home, firstly, you're going to be relieved, right? You're going to be happy that your exams are finished. Hopefully you would have done well. And you can relax and you can take time out to do leisurely activities or go on holiday, whatever it is you want to do. But, there's going to be a part of you that's going to miss that revision. That's actually going to miss that studying. Tell me what happens on your last exam, okay, after your last exam. Apart from the fact that you're happy, you're relieved, the exams are finished, you don't have to go back to them again, there's going to be a part of you that misses that momentum and that thrill and the nerves of studying for an exam and taking those exams. You wait and watch and give us some feedback afterwards as well. But you've got to start in the first place. If you don't get started, right? If you don't get started, you're not going to know. Overthinking, right? Stay in action. Don't analyze things left and right. Because if you're spending too much time over analyzing things, it wastes time. Yes, analysis is important because you're trying to understand theory. You're trying to understand practice. Practice means putting theory into paper, right? Analysis in that sense is good. It's good for you because you need to understand something before you revise it. It's all good. But if you don't fully understand what you're revising and you don't have time, don't worry. Carry on. Social media. Limit time on apps like TikTok, WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube. One student of mine, in fact, recently at the university said to me that he had quit TikTok for 2 months. So when I asked him, why did you quit TikTok for 2 months? He said, because I just want to focus on my exams. And I asked him, well, how's it going so far? And he said, well, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. Because now I have time to concentrate. Because I think TikTok was consuming his time, consuming his mind and distracting his mind on other things when he should have been focused on his exams and his future. So think about that. If you feel like that is too much to ask for you to shut down your social media for a few weeks and a few months before your exam revision, then you know what? You might as well get rid of your mobile phone. Give your mobile phone to your parents and say, look, I don't want to have this mobile phone because it's distracting. Let me finish my exams. And then you can give that mobile phone back to me later on. Try it. I understand that a mobile phone is so close to you and it's a personal possession that you can't get rid of nowadays. I get that. I get that. But when you have to put yourself first as a priority, you got to make sacrifices. So if you're thinking about yourself and you're willing to make that sacrifice, do something different, something that you've never done before. Think about that. Stretch your brain, stretch your mind. Think about your future. But some of you might be very organized. Some of you may have your mobile phones, but you can stay organized at the same time. You can do your revision, have your mobile phone at the same time. That's fine. Look, I don't know. You know yourself better than anybody else does. So you decide what's best for you. Looking after your mind and body is so essential. It's not just about how much you study, it's how well you treat your brain and your body. Small changes can lead to big gains if you are clearly focused. So we mentioned before that sleep early and wake up fresh, right, on the day of your exam, especially during that particular exam week. Drink lots of water, eat eggs, fruit, fish, nuts, those type of foods that release energy slowly throughout the day. Because what you don't want is you don't want to wake up in the morning and have a big bar of chocolate, because you'll get an energy rush straight away, and then within an hour that energy will start draining away, and when that energy starts draining away, people start feeling lethargic, a bit lazy, a bit depressed. So foods that can sustain us throughout the day with slow energy release are the best type of foods to eat on the day of the exam as well. Avoid energy drinks. So if you're really into Red Bull, or any substitute like Red Bull, and you feel like that keeps you awake at night to revise, or that keeps you going during the day, or having a heavy meal before studying, for example, try and change maybe a day. Try not to have a Red Bull. Try not to have a heavy meal before studying, and see how you feel. Because usually it's the case that you don't want any artificial consumption in your mind that can again distract you, because Red Bull tends to have a tendency, or energy drinks, even though they're marketed as such to give you clarity and energy boost and focus and attention, a lot of the times it actually gets you distracted as well. All right. And having a heavy meal before studying makes you tired. Why does it make you tired? Because it's that sugar consumption. Okay, so scientists say that sugar makes you tired. So if you're having an energy drink, the sugar makes you tired in the energy drink. If you're having carbohydrates like rice, like wheat, for example, like spaghetti, like noodles, and food that is heavily carbonated, that has sugar in, natural sugars, that will make you tired. All right. So think about maybe I know it's not always easy, because sometimes you don't cook your own food, but maybe change your diet a little bit and pilot test it and see how you feel. Okay. Take some light exercise. If you're constantly stuck in your room revising all day long, that's not healthy for you. You need to go out, get some fresh air. Go for a short walk each day. Okay, if it's too hot during the afternoon, wait till the evening. But go for a small stroll up and down your road, or maybe in a local park, just to get fresh air, just to do a little bit of thinking and breathing exercises. And it keeps you fresh and it keeps you alert, because exercise is really, really essential. Right? If you're sat around at home all day long, we're not doing any exercise, that means the natural melanin in our brains is not being released. And we human beings need that. They need that energy release just to feel fresh and feel healthy. That in itself will actually aid you in your revision just before your A2 exams as well. Okay, so I myself, look, I don't go to the gym, I don't do any weights, but I can tell you now, I go for a 3-hour walk every single night, right? And I don't go for my same destination. I sometimes change location. So I'll go to a park with nice scenery, for example. And I'm very lucky where I live. I live in a valley environment. I've got beautiful scenery, beautiful parks, nice rivers. So I'm very lucky in that sense, that I can go to some rural areas and get that light exercise that I need. But that's what keeps me going and keeps me motivated as well. I always look forward to that walk at the end of the night. And if I know that I can't do it at the end of the night, I'll do it first thing in the morning, you know? But that energy and using that energy that you've got stored in your body, all that sugar that we've got stored in that body, right? That needs to be released. And that way our minds and our brains feel healthy and we feel better as well. So some common mistakes that we can avoid. You need to trust your own journey. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's timeline is different. Focus on progress, not perfection. Because if you focus on progress, that will get you far. Perfection comes later. Okay? So leaving a revision to the last minute is not good, it's not healthy. We all know this. So cut out the procrastination, get involved now, you still have time. Only revising favorite subjects and ignoring the weak ones, that's not going to work either, right? Because you need to give duality, you need to give even space and time to all the subjects. In fact, the subjects that you're weaker on, you just need to spend a little bit more time on them rather than trying to avoid them. Memorizing answers without understanding concepts can sometimes be tricky, right? Especially in the science subjects. It can be really, really tricky not understanding them. So if you don't understand them, go onto YouTube. Look for some good videos for some professionals who have already made the clarity easier for you. If you hadn't picked up that information from your institute first time round, or if the textbook that you're revising doesn't make sense either. Comparing your progress with others is not always the best thing to do either, right? Because you just need to be focused on your own journey. If any friends call you up and ask you, look, how's it going? How's your revision going? And for you to say, look, I don't think I'm prepared, or I don't think I've revised enough, forget that. Build up some positivity. Tell your friend that you're revising. Tell them that you're working hard so you can motivate them as well. Right? Friends like other friends who can actually be a good role model for them and who can motivate them at the same time. But do not get mixed up in other people's progress. Concentrate just on your journey and your own progress, because nobody's going to help you. Nobody gives anything free on the plate nowadays. You got to help yourself. If you don't help yourself, nobody else is going to help you. All right? So put yourself first. Become a little bit selfish. Put yourself first and prioritize yourself first, especially in the next few weeks just before your exams. Let's look at some success student journeys. So, Hira, I studied early in the morning when it was quiet and peaceful, made grades. My grades went up and I felt less stressed. So Hira she was the eldest in her family. She had 5 younger brothers who were a little bit naughty, a bit loud, and a little bit crazy at times. So she decided that she would wake up early in the mornings when everybody would be asleep so she can focus on her revision before she went to school or college, right? And that really helped her. Rebecca, doing timetables helped me stop panicking during my exams. It just felt like a routine. So I mentioned Rebecca before, so she did really well. Joel, using flashcards daily helped me improve my economics grade by 2 levels, right? Because those flashcards, Joel would actually take his flashcards everywhere with him. He would take them to school, he would take them to the park, he would go with friends and give the flashcards to his friends and say, look, why don't you test me on this? Or why don't I teach, and I'll teach you and you check if I'm right. So there are some success stories every year, and you can be one of them. So we want to see you being successful, hopefully, inshallah, in the next few weeks and a few months' time. Okay? And final words before we have a question and answer session. And I know our colleague Usman wants to come in as well. Your journey is not defined by marks alone, all right? It's about effort, resilience, and growth. So remember those 3 words: effort, resilience, and growth. Give it your best. And then just let it go. Let it fly. Because you know that you've got this. Okay, you've done all the hard work up till now. Now what you need to do is, in the next few weeks before your exam, you just need to sharpen and polish off your focus and attention. Because these next few weeks are your chance to finish really strong. Okay, so you need to trust yourself, trust your abilities, trust in your effort, trust in the plan that you're going to make if you haven't made it already. Trust that structure that I mentioned before. Trust the revision materials that you've had. Trust your teachers that have taught you before. Trust your friends. Trust your family. And don't give up. Remember, you are capable, you are resilient, and you're not alone, because there are millions of students right now in your position right now doing the same thing right now. Okay? Preparing for their final exams. Okay? So I just want to say that thank you very much for joining me and Saliha as well. And now I'll move this back now to Saliha. And if you've got any questions or if you want to direct message me after the session, this is my Instagram account. Or if you want, you can message Saliha and her team. And if we can respond to you later on, then I'll be happy to do that as well. Okay?
Thank you so much, Adnan, for sharing the insights. And definitely the session itself was very informative. I'm sure it's going to be very, very useful for the students who are preparing for their A-levels exams. And the points that you shared were definitely very, very um, good and accurate, especially. It felt like, I was a student back then. I can relate to all of these things now when I was hearing you speak about all of those things. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, if you have any questions, you can definitely drop them down on the comment section. And we can cater to that and we can answer that for you. Otherwise, you can also reach out to Mr. Adnan. He has shared. So if you can just drop down your contact details on the chat box here, so they can. And if you, yeah, you'll have to share the screen right now. Your screen is still being shared.
I'm just trying to get rid of my sharing screen, and it doesn't seem to be working. I think it's frozen.
Yeah. So thank you so much for everybody for joining. But before ending this session today, I would just like to thank ICE Pakistan for hosting and organizing this amazing session on the A-level preparation for students who would be appearing soon for the Cambridge exams. ICE offers international degree programs in the UK. We are a transnational education institute, and we mainly focused on training programs and recognize undergraduate degree pathways for our students who want to opt for a foreign degree in the UK and elsewhere. We offer international foundation year, which is equivalent to A levels. And this program is designed and curated in such a way that allows students to have access to the international undergraduate degree program. The degree program itself is very affordable for the students in Pakistan, and it's more like research based. So it's quite easy for students who want to opt for this degree program and find a pathway that can lead them for international degree programs later on. The awarding body is LRN, and it's a 14-month program that the students can opt for. Moreover, we also offer the higher national diplomas through Pearson. That's the awarding body. So we offer the higher national diplomas here at ICE Pakistan, and we do have very flexible and a hybrid model when it comes to our study modes as well. So you have an option of either you can go online or you can study on my campus. We have classes in Islamabad or in Karachi, where I'm operating from, and we offer that in business, computing, arts, and design. And that's that students really are interested in these days. And transnational education system and the model is very good for the students, especially when we're able to relate industry trends and make them corporate ready once they start their own professional journeys as well. Like I mentioned, it's an undergraduate qualification program for students for 2 years in Pakistan, and for your last year, you can go abroad with the university of your choice. IC also offers the counseling session for students. We do have an international team, and they operate and they're able to connect the students with relevant institutions who have partnered with us as well. So that has become a lot easier for students to find the universities where they want to opt for or the subject area that they want to choose. So yeah, that's about it for today. Thank you so much again for joining us. I'm sure you must have left your details here on the chat. We don't have any questions so far. I'm sure the session
Sorry,
itself.
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that information, and you're doing a very, very good job, by the way, in Pakistan, especially with your institutes and your learning mechanisms and how you're trying to prepare students for the future as well. And yes, so if you haven't done already, please do look up ICE Pakistan, and then you're going to have lots of options on the websites, different types of courses that they can cater for you and they can help you out as well. And I know this company very well because they have an international presence, especially in the UK as well. And they're quite trustworthy and reliable as well.
We also offer
Thank you
like
for inviting me.
and skill-based training workshops for our students. So we believe in making sure that the students are
Good.
also prepped for the corporate world. So our motto is basically the students can learn and earn on the side as well. So that is one of the most important part of our programs that we sell. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take
Bye
care.
bye. Good luck and goodbye.
Thanks. Thank you so much.